Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM, and I am joined by the incredible Michael J. Russ. I want to say hello, Michael, and welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Always.
Yeah.
Ecstatic.
So great to have you, and it's always a wonderful exploration, and I want to say welcome to our audience members that listen to us on a weekly basis, and to anyone that's new, welcome to you, because we're so excited that you're joining us. It's a very pivotal time of year. It's the time of celebrations and bringing people together, and also invitations. You get invited to parties, you get invited to all of these different things, and I have an invitation for you, and that would be I invite you to be you, which might sound strange, but what does it mean to be you? What does it mean to be authentically you? What does it mean to reclaim your sovereignty? And those are all questions that we have sort of be serving up for this episode. Michael sends me so many amazing things, and one of the things that he sent me was a wonderful video by astrologer Pam Gregory, and she reminded me that 2025, which is the year that we are going to be embarking on, adds up to be the number 9. Which is the number of completion. And I'm a big Tesla girl, and I always was fascinated by his quote that if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you would have key to the universe. And I kind of always love the cool patterns of the number 9. And in the 9 times table, there's a symmetry of the digits that you can see when you write it sequentially, because the 10-digit increases and the 1-digit decreases. And I love the 9 times table because the sum of the digits in each product always reduced to the number 9, which made me feel like I had a secret code to solving math problems. There is a renowned numerologist and sacred geometry expert that I follow, Michael. He teaches that the number 9 holds a special place in sacred geometry and also spiritual numerology due to the things that I thought were so cool about the patterns in the number 9. Jane calls it a self-similar nature of the number 9, reflecting in completion and wholeness because of the reflection or reversal symmetry of the number 9. He also aligns with Nikola Tesla in his belief that the mysteries of 3, 6, and 9 are the keys to the universe. And I adore him because he teaches about the mystical qualities of not only the number 9, but also numbers. And he sees the number 9 as encapsulating universal harmony and the infinite patterns of creation. He says that 9 is considered the number of completion, enlightenment, and the highest vibration in the decimal system, and that the 9 times table teaches us about the deeper truths about the interconnectedness of numbers, energy, and the cosmos. So I sort of see that it's a beautiful way to start, and I'm excited that 2025 adds up to be a 9. But I look at the number 9 in the alphabet. It corresponds to the letter I. In the Kabbalah, the number 9, it corresponds to the Sefer Yesod on the Tree of Life, which is the connecting the divine realm into the physical world, which I think is an absolutely fascinating thing. And it aligns with our higher purpose, which again goes back to that authenticity that Pam talked about in the amazing video that Michael had sent me. And it also corresponds to the meaning in the Kabbalah for soul and wisdom. So I'm just excited. I'm excited for what is ahead, and I think an invitation to you being you is a great place to start. So, Michael, if I was to invite you to be you, what would be first on your plate, first, so to speak?
The thing that's always on my plate, which is to be a sovereign being. It's number 1 for me because, in my view, it encompasses. It's like this bowl that a lot of things fit into, and that's being authentic, being loving, and being in control of what goes in and out of my head and out of my body, and my relationship to my connection to something greater than myself. And those are the 3 things that I focus on every single day, because when I do that, I understand that how I fit, the part I play, I guess, in everything that goes on in the world and the universe. I'm just, I'm not going to say it's all about me, but technically, we're all individual sovereign beings, and we have the ability to dictate and create the reality that we live. And I'm ever cognizant of that. I'm ever aware of that because of all the things that can go on out there. Like Pam Gregory says, has been doing something that I know I've been doing for a very long time, and that is curating your life experience versus exposing yourself to things and then reacting from what you see and what you're exposed to. You can curate your experience to a degree. You can decide not to watch TV, like Pam. You can decide not to watch the news. You can decide to disconnect from social media. You can decide on the kind of friends that you want to have in your life, and you can draw a line, saying that this is unacceptable. People who are judgmental, who see themselves as victims, people who are carrying on in negative habits and ways that are self-destructive. That's not really what I want to associate with. And you can disassociate from that, and immediately you will, with those thoughts, attract other people who have the same or similar mindsets, the frequencies, operating on those frequencies that you decided. So I pretty much live a kind of a curated life. I don't need to go out in traffic jams and get all upset. Not to say that there's not traffic where I am. However, I use that as an example. When you're in a traffic jam, you can decide how you feel. You don't have to react and respond to what's going on around you. You can be in your own little world, paying attention to what you're doing, of course, but being in a world that is calm. There can be chaos operating all around you. And as a sovereign being, you know that you have the power to create calm. And whether it's through deep breathing, whether it's through the kind of music you listen to, whether it's a book on tape that you listen to that elicits positive feelings and emotions, whatever. And so that's where I come from with it. Now, what about you? What do you come from? How do you come? What's on your list?
It's very interesting, Michael, because you posted, you sent me a picture of the sunrise, and yesterday when I was driving, we had the most magnificent sunset, and I pulled over because I didn't want to miss it. I wanted to capture it. I wanted to stop and really drink it in. And somebody else that I follow on Instagram posted a picture of the sunset. I'm in Pennsylvania. They are in Colorado, and it was magnificent as well. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is incredible. But I would liken that to creating your own reality. Nobody can see the world through my eyes. I wish sometimes people could. And as nobody can see the world through your eyes. And I think that's how we create our reality. I do. I think that's how we create our reality. And in my reality, even though I had all of these things on my to-do list, it was more important for me to stop and be still, as you said, and just drink that sunset. And it was so, so incredible. Yeah. It was absolutely incredible. And I will never again see that same sunset. And so I think for me, that invitation is really what it is. It's aligning to what really lights my fire, what brings me joy, what gets me excited, what makes me want to play and be who I am to that fullest expression, whether that be in the wacky clothes that I like to wear. I sometimes I think to myself, well, maybe one of these days I'll grow up in my fashion choices. Probably not. My friend and I went out over the holidays, and I said, I want to go look in the kids' department because I still fit in kids' clothes. So I like to find things that are fun and whimsical, and it makes me happy. And in my reality, I don't probably dress my age. I can get dressed up, and I can be, very elegant, but for many of the time, I like to just be fun and whimsical, and it's what's the priority and what makes me happy and joyful. So in curating that aspect of my life and celebrating my uniqueness, which is very different than a lot of people my age, I guess, whatever that means. And I have to say that I still am celebrating Dick Van Dyke getting younger every year. And I think that that's exactly, for me, that's what part of my aligning to my truth of who I am. Mm-hmm. I like to try new things. I like to allow myself to be me. And I don't make any apologies for it. And part of being me, as you had said, and I really thought about it after our last show, was that your greatest wish and your superpower is all about connection, and mine is all about love. And I'm finding so many things to love on and so many things that are just delighting me, that in that same childlike wonder. And I saw something by George Harrison. He said, I don't know what age he was, but he said you go from 14 to 47 in a blink of an eye. And he said, I've talked to people that are in their 80s, and they don't feel any different than when they were in their 20s. And I think that that's really a gift, that when you're able to do that and you have that state of being and that authenticity in being who you are, I don't think you ever lose that childlike wonder. And I think that that's part of my greatest invitation. And if I would be going full circle in the number 9 and the year of completion, I'd be going back to probably this when I was a child and re-experiencing a lot of the things that brought me joy and wonder. And yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time for that.
That's true. I like what you just said there. I'll piggyback on one thing. In terms of 20 or 80, you can feel the same way in your 80s that you did in your 20s. And the unfortunate thing is I do see people, and I've had people tell me this. I said, "Oh no, I can't do that. That's not. I'm 80 years old. I would never. That's not something I can do. I'm not 20 anymore." And I'm going, "Wow, okay, let's see here." Because, society has, when you allow society, your outside world, people, and society in general to dictate what you should be doing, how you should be thinking, how you should be acting or responding to things, what defines play for you. When you let that happen, that's not being authentic. That's not being real. It's not being you. I'm a very playful person, and I would call myself, in many cases, goofy. I do things that are just, because they feel good. And whether that's, spontaneously break into a little dancing moving, moves, a few dance moves when there's some really, really good music, or whether I mimic a commercial. I attempt to bring that to my girlfriend Sandy all the time, because she kind of has a tendency to get caught up in what is appropriate. You see, that's when you say what's appropriate, then you're talking about what other people might say or what society believes is appropriate for someone your age. And to me, that's what stifles remaining young, being young. Mm-hmm. Is the thought that, letting something outside of you dictate how you feel, how you should act, and all of that. And, I say, forget that. There is a commercial with a guy, a very famous black character actor. I think he was on The Office. And he has a very nice coiffed afro, kind of a little bit big bone side, heavy side. But he's a great actor. He starred in the movie Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh my gosh, yes, it was a funny movie.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're speaking about.
Okay, so he's in this commercial. and it's a sort of an Office-like takeoff, and it was an AT&T commercial. AT&T is a telecom company for those of you around the world here as a mobile and all kinds of commercial applications. But at any rate, the commercial was about him being the IT guy. And one of the other guys from the office was sitting opposite him and talking about, yeah, you're the IT guy. And he says, yeah, I'm the IT guy. And he said, well, you didn't really do anything to turn on that internet. And he says, I did my job. And he says, but you didn't do anything. And he looks at him. He goes, he says, exactly. And he said, what? You didn't? He said, exactly. But you didn't take any time. You didn't make any effort. Exactly. And he kept saying that back to him. And then he got the other guy saying exactly. He'd say exactly. He goes, yeah, exactly. And then exactly. And so this weekend I messed around. We were in Biloxi last weekend with my girlfriend and I played this on her, like this little routine with something that she had said to me, and I said, exactly. And she said, what? I said, exactly. And I said, go ahead, say it. Exactly. And she looks at me, she goes, exactly. And I go right again, exactly. So we do this exactly thing back and forth. And then finally she starts cracking up. And so the whole 3 days that we were out of town, whenever the opportunity arose where I could say exactly, then she'd say exactly. And I go, exactly. And she'd go, exactly, exactly, exactly. And it'd go back and forth because it's for something so obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a funny thing. And then we just start busting out laughing, right? And it's just fun to get her out of her shell, out of her what's normal, or society believes is normal, and just to do something fun, right? To do something fun, and play around like that. But to me, that's what is the playfulness that keeps us young. It's the playfulness that
right.
we must continue to engage in, because from the point that we go to school for the first time as a kid, all that playfulness gets shut down. Now, let me tell you one other thing, too. This is really interesting. There was a study, and you and I are going to look at this and go, they spent money on this? Do you remember growing up? Do you remember growing up when we went to art class? Every school had art class, creative class. Right? No, there was art. And that doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't existed for decades. They got rid of art. They got rid of woodworking. They got rid of all the things that help people discover who they are and build confidence and build self-confidence in those things. They got rid of all that. And they focused only on reading, writing, and arithmetic and testing and prepping these kids to go to school. Well, this study just discovered that the stuff we used to do has greater value than the other things. It teaches. It basically, they had the fun to study now in 2023 or 2024 to tell us something that we already really knew. Well, older teachers already knew that when you expose kids to art and working with their hands, right, that it helps build self-confidence, self-esteem, reduces anxiety, etc., and fears about the unknown and all these things, right? The study just discovered this. And I'm like, I've been saying this for years. You got, if you give somebody, I mean, literally you had an elective. You could go to auto shop. You could go to sheet metalworking. You could go to art, painting. You could go to woodworking. You could go to whatever it might be. Home economics, for Christ's sakes, was even thrown in with that, right? They don't even teach these kids home economics, how to enjoy life, live life on your own, right? I went to home economics when I was 12.
Yeah, I learned how to sew. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned how to sew.
Cook, make macaroni and cheese from scratch.
Exactly. Right? Go ahead, say it with me. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
See how much fun that is? I mean, it's just so much fun to be on the same wavelength and say that. But it took a study to figure this out, and I'm like, what is wrong? What is one of the biggest challenges that we have right now with a lot of young people? A lot of parents are dealing with this right now. These kids are full of anxiety. They're full of fears. They're full of worries about the unknown. And I'm like, have you tapped into any of the gifts that you have? Have you have you even looked at those, or just gone out and and attempted various things? Because these kids are afraid of their own shadow. They're afraid of failing. They're afraid of failure, and that's one of the things that the study discovered, is that when these kids, involve themselves in the freedom of art and working with their hands and all these kind of things, that they had less fears. They feared less of the unknown. They took more risk, right, than the average child their age. And I'm going, yeah, this is not rocket science, people. Everybody's got gifts. Let's put together a program that allows them to figure out what those gifts are, and then everything else benefits. Whole society benefits, right? And they love themselves more. They have more. No, do have greater self-confidence and greater self-love, and they're more positive. And what does the world consciousness need right now? More positivity, right?
You're right.
And social media and the other things that keep putting forth negativity, they take that away. As soon as you focus on the negative.
You're right. Although there is a lot of amazing things. I tune into it. I think it becomes of what you're curating, and what I curate and what I attract in the algorithm sends me in my feed. And today they sent me, and I'm not going to pronounce his name correctly. It's Tune Tobes, who started a foundation called Article 25, and it's Forever Human. And there was a documentary. I have not yet seen the documentary yet, but I plan on it. And he basically, a young 24-year-old who lived for several years with individuals with dementia. And it was just the little snippets that I watched, and he wrote a book called The Housemates, all about his experience of living with these individuals with dementia. And the little snippet that I watched this morning, he said, there was a gentleman, and he said that he would invite him, this elderly gentleman would invite him to come and sit and give him a beer and watch football. And he said, although he couldn't remember his name, there was a connection. And there was, it's just amazing. It's amazing that somebody who, he talked about how much value he found in the daily life of these elderly residents and what his experience. And then he started traveling to other countries and seeing how they interacted with the elderly. And it just like I said, I can't wait to watch the documentary, because it just really spoke to me. And so I think that there is a lot of amazing things that you can find that way. And I think that as we enter this year of completion, there is this conscious awareness that we're going to be able to bring forth that is going to be more vital than ever. And it's all about, I think, this collective energy of humanity coming together and regaining, as you said, our sovereignty, and that every thought, every word, every little bit of energy that we put out there is going to contribute to this energetic fabric of the world. And so as we do that with intention, with love and unity and compassion, and we can create this higher potential for everybody, for that betterment that Pam talked about, for the betterment of everybody. Set intentions for the betterment of everybody and stay on that higher timeline. And I really love that. Exactly that, Michael. Exactly that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. I agree with you, 110%. There's no doubt about it. It's interesting because you say that, because my father passed away from dementia, not Alzheimer's, but dementia. And in 2012, after 7 years of engaging with that disorder. What's interesting is that I noticed that there were two ways to be with him. One way was simply to to be with, because his long-term, let me just step back a second. With my father in dementia, his short-term memory is what was problematic. His long-term memory was good. I could sit down with him and I could talk about, something we did back in, Taiwan or Turkey or the Philippines, some trip we did, whatever we did, something about his work, and he'd be fine with that. It was the short-term memory. It was remembering what we did 5 minutes ago. That's where it became problematic. Or if my girlfriend would come with me and sit down with him, and because she wasn't part of his long-term memory, she was only within a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, 4. It wasn't part of his really long-term memory. He would ask her who she was, and then we'd talk about something else, and he would go, "Who are you again?" And it would. You can either choose to become upset by that because you can't change. You can't change it, but you're trying to change it, right? Or you can simply say, "This is just keep repeating who you are. Just say, hey, like it's the first time you've ever met him." And I would sit down and watch football with him, and he would enjoy it. And and every once in a while, within a couple of years of his passing, he would sit there and he would watch, and I would watch him, and he'd be engaged, and then all of a sudden, he'd vacate. It's like his soul would leave his body for a little bit. He'd be looking at the screen, but it's as if his soul was off dancing and partying somewhere, right? And then his soul would come back. He would pop out of it, and he would ask me a question about the game that he just asked previously, right? Like who's winning, or what happened there, But it's interesting that you can either approach someone with dementia from the perspective of what the gentleman who started the Article 25 Foundation was doing and wrote that book, the Housemates, or you can actually see that as a detriment and approach it from that perspective because they're not like everybody else, and they're not looking for the special moments, the interesting things that occur, how different people can behave. I chose it as to approach it from a positive perspective, and therefore there was no frustration. And the reason that people with dementia have to go into an assisted living environment, either at home or in some place where they have like level 1, is because you'll forget if you're taking medication, or if you will forget to eat too. You'll forget to eat.
Sure.
Right. My dad had type 2 diabetes, so he would forget to eat. He'd forget to take his medication, and he would, end up in a diabetic coma, somewhere in the hallway or of his apartment. He was living alone. And so, or at a store, or in his car. Well, that was even more concerning. So the bottom line is, though, that for me, in that environment, it was important for me to approach it from a positive, non-judgmental perspective. In other words, everything you heard about dementia, forget it, and just be with the person. Be with the person. Engage with the person. And put love forth, and kindness, and compassion, and empathy. Approach it from that perspective, and it won't be the same experience as somebody who approaches it from a stressful perspective, because it's not the person they used to know. It's not. They're not doing what they asked them to do. They're not. Why does he keep asking me this question 15 times? You just answer the question and change the subject and move on. Yeah. And anybody I know who's that's the same thing I tell most people. Everybody who comes to me and says, I'm dealing with a dementia situation. And I'm saying it's not about them now, it's about you. It's about how you engage with this situation. Because they're going to engage with it the way they do, and that's not something you can control. You can control you. So make it positive. Make it loving.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And it'll be a positive experience for you. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And and a lot of times, for this young man to be 24 to doing this, it was something that he saw that was part of his path, part of who he was. He felt a real calling to change the perspective of what people think around individuals with dementia, that they're no longer a viable part of society, that they don't have anything to offer. And I love that. And I think a lot of times that when we take that invitation, the you being you, there are things that might spark an interest in something that you never even thought possible. There's another gentleman that I follow on Instagram. His name's Sam Bentley, and he brings lots of good news. And one of the ones that I loved the other day was childhood friends who saw an industry in their area where there were all this waste. And they thought, it just seems like, here they are in Indonesia, and they're looking at all this farm waste. And then they said, wait a minute, if we take the waste from this farm and we cook it the way that we would make tempeh, we can actually create it into something. And they're making leather, believe it or not, like a form of vegan leather, and making it into shoe bags and all sorts of different things.
Okay, that's interesting.
From something that was waste. Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating.
They're creating a solid that actually has a viable use. That's interesting. I'll have to take a look at that one. I will look him up. Actually, just send me one of his stories.
Yeah, I will.
Next time, send me one of his stories, and I'll follow him.
They're growing it the way that you would mushrooms. But to me, you know what? I love it because there's people that are. And he focuses. He showed a lot of the different things. He calls it good news for 2024, and a lot of it has to do with plastic. And obviously, we've seen the two young men who wanted to do something about the plastic in the ocean and came up with these devices. Yeah. Oh my goodness, amazing. Yeah. And now one. Yeah, and one of the things that he just showed, he said there's actually a new plastic, quote unquote plastic, that dissolves in seawater, and another one they found these super worms that digest styrofoam and plastic. I mean, I'm like, but it takes something very simple where you have, you go into your heart and you're saying like, this is really bothering me. This is something I'd love to be able to do something about. And then the kids from Indonesia had a conversation over dinner and like, well, yeah, you know what? Let's see what we can do about it. I mean, you never know until you sit down with them and have a conversation what it was that sparked it. But it's that heart-centeredness that generates that coherent energy field that all of a sudden there's no longer any barriers. It just seems to they're raising their frequency, and all of a sudden the barriers seem to dissolve. There's no fear involved because it's not like, oh well, no, we could never do that. There's no doubt. It's like
no doubts, yeah. No. They just work on it.
I absolutely love. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. There's a foundation, a nonprofit in New Orleans that takes glass bottles and sorts them and crushes them up into granules of sand, and they can separate color, creating blue sand and green sand. But their reason for doing so is to put them in bags, create sandbags to deter flooding. And
oh wow!
Yeah, that's what they do. Instead of getting sand from a beach or from the ocean, they're taking glass bottles and giving them a new use, and by crushing them they've got several different size granules, but one of them is super fine. They can even ground them into powder, believe it or not. And so, and they collect thousands and thousands of bottles, and they've been doing this. And I'm sitting there going, why doesn't every city have this? Why are we putting glass in landfills and giving these things a new use, especially here where I live along the coast, where flooding is more prevalent and going to become even more prevalent in the future, right? We got a lot of sand, but that sand has got to be taken from somewhere else. It's not taking something a waste product and creating a use for it. That's not what taking sand from the ocean is really doing, to put in sandbags. Or dirt, right? Digging up the earth and misshaping and misforming the earth to when these bottles are sitting there, just going to the dump, And I love that sort of thing. I wrote it down. I wrote down the name of it, and I put it in the back burner of my mind. I have a book that I keep, a notebook that I keep these things in, and these cool ideas that people have, and how they're reinventing, right? And the idea about, I think I had actually heard about the cow dung and water buffalo dung being turned into leather. I believe I heard about that.
Yeah, this is actually the waste from the palm, like the palms and
palm trees
and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, palm tree waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the fronds. Instead of burning it, which is what they were doing before.
Yeah.
They're actually it's a pretty fast, like really fascinating process. They I think they call their thing, it's called MYCL, and basically they looked at the way that tempeh is made from soybeans and mushroom, and they kind of use the same concept, but instead of using the soybean, they use the forestry waste, all of the forestry waste, and they took the plant fibers and they mixed it with the mushroom spores, and then they let it grow, and it grows just like leather. It can be stretched and coated. It's amazing. It really is flexible. I mean, It can be sewn. Sure. It can be made into shoes. I mean, what a brilliant idea.
Needs to be more of that, right?
Michael, when people, I think, they sit down and they come up with what's your New Year's resolution? Well, instead of having a resolution for the year of completion, why not embrace and celebrate whatever uniqueness it is? Engage in activities that allow you to express yourself, whether that be have something to better the world, whatever it is. I think that's really a big part of it. I heard that 2024 is all about lessons. So if you're going to release that which no longer serves you, whether you want to journal, meditate, or a ceremony to let it go, then bring in the new beginning and maybe get together and brainstorm something that you want to create that makes your heart sing. And I think that then we do that, and you put your love and joy and emotion and just step into being authentically you. All kinds of amazing things can happen. And don't allow any of that fear and doubt or any of those other things to even creep in. Just say, I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to unfold. And I think it's a wonderful adventure. Exactly.
Exactly. It can happen, and it is happening right now. There's so many cool things going on around the world that are solving problems, that are, technological advancements that people have created out of a need that they've seen, a problem they've wanted to solve, a need that they're filling, and there's more than we could ever possibly imagine. If your heart is in it, you'll do it, and just like any inventor will sit and when I was doing art back in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I was doing art projects, and the fun of the creation of coming up with an idea and then going and getting the various things that you needed to bring it to fruition, and then bringing it to fruition was just the most fantastic feeling that you have when you're birthing something that is of your own creation. There's no feeling like it, really. It's just like writing a book or writing poetry, writing songs. I so admire people who are songwriters. They're meant to be storytellers of that type, and how easy it is for them to create out of thin air, through their own intuition and their own guidance, inner guidance, their non-physical being guidance, however it comes. Somebody said the other day that they ask, as a reporter, they ask every artist they interview, where'd that come from? And all of them none of them have yet to say anything other than, I don't know. It just does. It's from outside.
Right.
from outside of me. It just comes to me. And it's so beautiful when that is. And we, it's interesting. We're kind of like that too, because this podcast comes to us, comes through us. We don't have any script or any kind of structure to how we do these shows. And to me, that's the beautiful part of them, is that we can set the ball rolling downhill and see which way it goes. We just know that it's constantly in motion. That's what we know, and it's just beautiful, more than anything else. But these stories are fantastic. The Optimist does these things too. There's an Optimist. It's called The Optimist. I pay him. I think I dedicate. It's a nonprofit. I dedicate him like $10 a month or something like that to The Optimist. They send me emails. That every day there's a story, a positive story, an optimistic story about something technological that's occurring, something that somebody's doing, a study that came out that's positive for the world, whatever positive news there is. They put it out once a week, and they give you a link to the greater story, which is really quite nice. So you can stay up on it. Like, again, you curate what goes into your mind. That's what sovereignty means. You just don't let everything dump into your head. You do, you go crazy. You go nuts. Because and your feelings will be cattywampus. They'll be truncated. They'll be all over the place. And I prefer to. When I started doing that years ago, I noticed that I separated myself. I was able to easily separate myself from from negativity. Because most stories are negative. They're designed to be that way because negative sells. Negative is what gets people to take action. Positive really doesn't. However, we should make that our priority. As a sovereign, you make it your priority to be aligned with positivity and now we've got these algorithms on social media, which, again, I do the same thing. My Instagram feed is full of really cool stuff. Archaeological discoveries and things going on, people traveling around the world doing cool stuff. That's what I love to learn about. Other people's passions, and you can curate in other people's passions instead of negativity. That things that are divisive, you can do that. And sovereignty is is your own algorithm, baby. That's what sovereignty is, your algorithm, your personal algorithm for curating what you expose yourself to, and doing what's fun instead of what people, the negative things that people engage in. So anyway, it's wonderful. I love the line.
You're absolutely right. And Michael, and I think that goes back to being sovereignty for people who can't wrap their mind around what that word means. I think, again, it's that invitation to be you. Be you. Right. Celebrate your uniqueness, whatever that is. And when we allow ourselves to be who we are, whether that be creative or I think that's what I love about music. It's only how many notes, and people put them together in the most magical ways. And it all sounds different, and it's just, and then the words that come with it. There's a few people that I've connected with as musicians, and I listen to their lyrics, and they are just transformative, and I find myself singing them and humming to their music, and it helps me transform. And I think that no matter, you don't have to have those talents. We all have our own unique gifts and talents, and when I do tapping with individuals, and I always stop and I have them say, I acknowledge myself for all my amazing gifts and my blessings. I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself for all my amazing gifts and blessings. And just having that, cultivating that self-love and that acceptance helps us to connect with who we are authentically. A lot of people, when I would work with them, have a difficult time acknowledging, and they say, I can't say that. I can't say that I love and accept myself. And I'm like, okay, what word can you say? And being able to help them, guide them into a different space for you and for me, we do like who we are. We do love who we are. We support ourselves energetically in aligning with our true path and always being grateful and always trying to find the joy in any difficult situation, exactly where we are at this time and space. And, I recognize that not everybody has that. So when you use the word sovereignty, that's what I think to myself so many times. It's overlooked in our modern society. It's like, so how do you get to that higher timeline, that gateway to higher consciousness? You do so with little steps. You celebrate your unique gifts, your unique talents. And as you do, you're like, wow, you know what? I did that. And if it was a creative project, I'm not very much of a carpenter, but when I do achieve something in that realm, I'm really proud of myself. And it's okay to say, I was really proud of myself. I got that done. And it's not arrogance. It's not narcissism. It's just acknowledging a job well done.
Wonderfully said. I want to add that one of the reasons, in my view, that people don't feel good about themselves and the like is because and don't feel they're being authentic or can say, hey, I love this about me, is because of a diatribe of commentary throughout their lives that they need to be like someone else, that being you isn't good enough. You need to be like someone else, using someone else as an example, this successful person or that successful person or this person who makes a lot of money or that person who does this important thing. And it all goes back to, again, for me, being able to divine what it is, what my talents and gifts are, what is unique to me. And when you discover what's unique to you, you can latch on to that. That is your individuality. That is that is your providence, so to speak, here in this life, at least one of them. And from that, you can springboard into other things. But there are a lot of people who can't say they love themselves because they've been told that they need to be like someone else. And until they reach that point, they can't love themselves, not knowing whether that point is where they want to be or not. And it's really interesting. And think about it. Parents drill into their kids, into their kids how they need to be like so-and-so. They need to be successful like this. Or in Asian culture, it's doctor, lawyer, CPA, neurosurgeon. That's what you need to be. And if you're not that, you're not successful. Art doesn't do it. Dance doesn't do it. Music doesn't do it. Acting doesn't. No. You need to be a professional. And they drive a lot of Asian families that I've seen, that I've witnessed personally, have driven their kids to be doctors and lawyers and accountants and not seek other professions. Not even cooking, not even being chefs, because that wasn't a viable profession. The chefs, the people who own restaurants, want their kids to be doctors and lawyers because they want them to be more successful than they were.
Right.
Yet, your idea of success is your idea of success. Is whatever you feel it is, and there are like multiple layers of success, and the like. So this is a societal problem. Say problem. It's an issue that we have, a challenge that we have in society is how we allow people to discover who they are.
Right.
And each of us has to, if we haven't done it already, okay, if you're 66 years young like me, and you've been here and experienced a lot of wonderful things, yet not really discovered what your own passions and what brings you joy, and what brings joy to your heart, and what you really love spending your time on. So much so that time is you actually expand time. When you're actually doing something you love, time is not of any importance. It's just something is there, but you're so engrossed and focused and attentive to what you're doing and loving it so much that time isn't a factor. not a factor.
Right.
It's not like you're on some mission to get something done, completed, And it's project-wise. I know I love having an issue that needs to be taken care of. We've got this particular thing is going on, and we need something a fix for that. And I'll say, great, let me think on it.
Right, and you may not approach the same project the same way I would, which is what is so important. It doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa. No. And it goes back to being able to see the world through your own unique set of eyes. I took a photography class, and we went to a cemetery, and there was 25 of us in the class, and we all walked around the cemetery. And guess what? We all saw different things. And then when we came back to class the following week, and we shared the photographs, and some of us had taken pictures of the same monument, but they were all from different perspectives. No two were alike. Not one of us took the same photograph. And I think that's what is applauding that uniqueness. There was not one person. Maybe there were techniques, and they set their lens a little bit different, but I don't know. I think even allowing that, however you want to set your aperture on your camera, or however you want to set your aperture in life, it's your field of vision. You get to decide. You get to decide. And that is exactly what it is in being you, is celebration for. And it truly, it was lots of fun. I have lots of really creative photographs. I took a lot of pictures of the angels, which I was attracted to, and of the different angels that were there.
There were different renderings of angels and different things like that. I find old cemeteries to be rather interesting because they give you a sort of a picture into. They're like a time capsule for that. In time. It's time capsule for this. But something else I want to touch on is that, we're talking about being a sovereign individual, being authentic. One of the things that Pamela talked about from an astrological perspective in the next 5 and 10 years is that we're going. 2025 is kind of an era where we're going forward. There's going to be less focus on celebrity. I found that to be a very interesting statement, that celebrities will lose their luster. They'll be seen as just people like everybody else and not put on a pedestal, which I say all the time to my girlfriend and others. A lot of celebrity worship out there. There's a lot of people who want to be like other people instead of themselves. We are all celebrities. We are all worthy of our own deep respect and our own love that we give to people who are doing things that society considers to be extraordinary. Michael Jordan's he's a man just like anybody else. He plays basketball, and he's been very successful at it. He's good at it. He's found his unique authenticity. Right? It's great. Not everybody's going to be like that. But why do we put him on a pedestal above anybody else? And I'm sure if he was here, he'd say, why? I don't see myself that way. I don't believe that Kobe Bryant saw himself that way. He saw himself. He had a single-minded focus, a single-minded purpose to become the best basketball player he could be. And every day that was his primary focus, to be better than he was the day before. And to that I say, we can all do that. We can all be a better person tomorrow than we were today. Every one of us. So we're all worthy of that celebrity. Nobody's in a closet somewhere or is less than anyone else. Yet there's a whole machine that in our world that depends on that, putting people up on that pedestal, that is supported by that. And if they weren't put on a pedestal, then they wouldn't have a purpose in their own life. And we have to say, what? That person is just like you or me. They have negative thoughts. They have positive thoughts. They handle their challenges no differently than what most people would. And they have anger, they have revenge, they have all these negative lower frequencies, and a few of them are literally saying, hey, there's no difference between you and me. Mm-hmm. I just had a single-minded focus on what I wanted to do, and that's what I went out and did.
Exactly.
Right? I discovered a knack for something, a knack for being on stage and acting. I loved it, and that's what I pursued. Great, fantastic. Or basketball or soccer or whatever it is. But that's what I encourage people to do. Find out what's good for you.
Yeah, I over the holiday, I listened to Elle Macpherson's book, and it was amazing because, to me, she's a beautiful woman, a supermodel, businesswoman, very amazing person, and it was so interesting to listen to her be very frank about her insecurity about herself, her body, her looks. She was told early on in her modeling career that she had brown eyes. She would never be successful as a model. Her body wasn't the way other models were. And she said it was all about finding her own uniqueness, and that she was athletic and she was 6 foot tall, and she wasn't going to be the skinny model. And she started to recognize that it took a really sort of a cruel photographer on a shoot for her to realize, no, you know what, I'm not going to be what you want me to be. I have to just be uniquely me. And I think for anybody that has wanted to look like somebody else, recognize that you're amazing just the way you are. And this year is the year of completion. So it's your time. Whatever you've been putting off, this is your time. You can be the best that you can be. And because you're yourself and you're authentically you, who knows where it will take you and what other doors will open up. I mean, that's what makes your life amazing. That's what makes your unique perspectives of the world so precious to the integral parts of all that is. And that's how I think, in my opinion, that's how we do set our intention for the betterment of all. We do our part at being amazing just the way we are, being wonderful just the way we are.
Yeah.
And that's what's so delightful. Exactly, Michael.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
One of those. So well said, by the way. It is. I love the way you put things. And what I love about the show is that we put things differently, but we say the same thing. And hoping, of course, that it strikes a chord in the people who listen here on PRNFM and on our podcast, Connect to Love. I really, really, really hope that we're connecting and that we've created a thought-provoking situation for you, an introspective moment where you can maybe look at 2025 and see that you see and keep sort of in your forefront of your mind that it's the year of completion, that it's also a year of great change, and be on the lookout for how that happens for you instead of going through the same road habits every single day. Change something up, shift something. You never know how it might make you feel to shift. As somebody said to me 4 decades ago, we all generally start washing our bodies in the same way when they're in the shower, right? Well, why not switch it up? Instead of using your right hand all the time, start with your left, I mean, change something. Change something,
Right.
And I think, that's really a true thing. If you brush your teeth first and wash your face second, wash your face first and brush your teeth second. Change something, and
exactly.
Keep doing it. Keep changing it. The littlest things, the littlest habits that you might have that you've become comfortable with that have nothing. Go and jump into the unknown. Embrace it, and run with it, and be alert to how it makes you feel and how your life is impacted by it.
I think that's great, and I think it's a wonderful invitation, Michael, to celebrate your own unique essence and really see how rare you are and allow that to show, whether you're going to wash yourself with your right hand or your left hand.
Right.
And then just allow yourself to shine when you get out there and you step out that door.
Hey,
and,
no doubt about
absolutely.
it. No doubt about
Absolutely.
it. By the way, I will say one last thing. The little corgi is so neat to watch because as a puppy, everything is new. So
That's
it's
wonderful.
neat to just sit and watch what attracts him to something. He sits on the back stoop and watches the how fascinating it is to sit and watch things that we would consider, in many cases, just simply mundane. That is, in the morning early when he's out after waking up and watching the greenskeeper, one of the greenskeepers mow the green with their mower, their riding mower, and he's like, wow, that's fascinating, and you're looking at it going, huh?
It is.
The picture I took this morning, I took when I took him outside this morning. That picture of the sunrise coming through the trees with the mist off to me, that's just a great shot. Doesn't happen very often, but hey, I'll encourage our listeners to see life in a different way. Every single moment, just shift and change, and see how things evolve differently for you, how your thinking evolves as a result of that. Embrace it. Love yourself. I love me.
Love yourself. Mm-hmm. Great message, Michael. Until next time, thank you.
Bye-bye.